Hey guys, boys and girls, welcome back to the Speakeasy Drink Better podcast. We're back here for another great episode with you guys. I got Edelweiss and John joining us tonight. You know, it's been a couple episodes that we haven't all been back together. And we've got another special topic for you tonight. You know, we're gonna really explore the world of glassware, you know?
And it's so cool too because Edelweiss has an incredible collection of glassware, and the secretary right here for everybody to
It's
see.
getting there, yeah. I'm slowly building it up, but yeah.
It's gorgeous, and honestly, there's pretty much every glass is accounted for. Any classic glass you could possibly imagine is accounted for. So we wanted to do tonight though is make sure that everybody had a basic understanding of all of the most important, I would say, cocktail glasses as it pertains to a speakeasy, right? From the early 1920s all the way up through today, and what we would experience today. Being served in any bar worth its salt in New York, New Jersey, or wherever you are. So
Unpopular opinion, glasses do count. It makes a big difference when it comes to a cocktail. It has to be served in the proper glassware, otherwise you can
absolutely
mess up the cocktail. It will not taste or be experienced the same way.
It's different. You just said the word experience.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that go. The glass, we talk about a lot of things, key things. The glass, and we're going to go through these. Ice and garnish are always key for you. You know, certain people make the whole thing an experience.
Exactly. So I guess the best place to start is probably at the beginning. We talk about the coupe glass. So that's what you're going to see right here. Now, Edelweiss, where did you get this coupe glass? I know there's probably a story behind this, so you probably got it someplace cool.
You would think it came from someplace cool. Yeah, not so much. You're a good old neighborhood Williams Sonoma.
Oh, really?
But they're very. I have to point out that it's not just a regular coupe glass. They are etched, so
yeah,
just that makes the price go up a little bit. But they're pretty.
Well, right? I think that's the big
It gives
thing,
it that vintagey look, because most of my vintage glassware that I do have are mostly, if not all of them, are etched.
So I guess they leafed some of them too. Yeah.
Well, it's like you go and have a drink or something simple. Think about you go to a simple party. You have glasses or you have a solo cup. There's a difference, right? It's like, hey, you know what? Like, it makes a difference. It really, it's about experience. But if you're going out, sitting here, you don't want to drink something out of a plastic glass. And every drink, I think you have a better experience with the drink or the cocktail that you're having if it's served in the appropriate type of glass.
But it also serves a purpose, right? It's not just to make it look pretty and experience it. Like, I think that we're going to get into the whys of each cocktail has its
there's very specific reasons for all of it. And the coupe glass specifically, it was originally designed for champagne. And I think that's really important to distinguish champagne flutes as we see them today. I mean, that for me is not the best way to drink champagne. Now, granted,
so everybody on there knows what a typical flute, kind of this with the stem on it.
Exactly.
Very narrow.
Yeah, we didn't want to show it because, it's not really a cocktail glass per se. I mean, you can put a French 75 into it, I guess, but even that's not like something that people do.
You can serve it in these. Works best.
Yeah, it's just way better, right? So,
and everyone knows what a champagne flute is, right?
Exactly.
So we've all had
we've all had champagne
toast
out of a
flute.
Or, at a wedding, wherever. But this is called a champagne saucer. So this is something that was, really popularized back in the 1910s and 20s, pre-Prohibition, after Prohibition. Today you'll find a lot of alcohol forward cocktails, and there's ones that don't have juices or sodas or anything else in it, right? So like you may have a Manhattan or a daiquiri in this. So the good thing about it, of course, yeah. The good thing is
not good enough for that glass. That's Manhattan all the way for me.
Man, there's a lot of really great daiquiris out there, but at the end of the day, really, what I think of when I think of a coupe glass, I think of an alcohol forward glass. So like if I were going to serve, and when we get to the martini glass, we'll talk about that too. But this is a wider surface. It helps to disperse the aromas a little bit and brings them up, but it doesn't kind of attack your nose like what we'll talk about with the Glencairn and the tulip glasses at the end. This is perfect for a cocktail. I know my fiance, she loves coupes, and we have a lot of really cool ones, and they're all crystal. And I think that serving a cocktail in a coupe glass is my favorite thing to do, but also drinking champagne out of a coupe glass I really enjoy too, because it almost gives it a little less of that really intense effervescence at the front. and it kind of pulls the flavors out a little bit more rather than, drying it out and making it super intense like you would get in a flute.
Correct.
So I really enjoy that.
So next
it
time,
holds more,
people,
too.
try using a coupe to drink your champagne. Don't be afraid to utilize that. That's how they used to do it back in the day.
Or have the champagne first and then have somebody make you a cocktail in the same glass after. Take
Even
two.
better.
Yeah,
Even better.
yeah, or just do what I do and drink the champagne out of a burgundy glass.
Or just take champagne, toss it out, and get a cocktail.
But that's the coupe glass, and I think it's beautiful, and it's something very super iconic. If you ever saw the movie The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio, you'll see him holding a coupe. That's what he toasts with. So, all
right,
the next one that we talk about, this is a cool one. So this is a rocks
This one right
glass.
here.
Yep.
And this has a really specific use case, right? And it's so easy because it's named after it for us, right? Rocks, as in this is a glass. This is a type of glassware that you would either pour alcohol over it, whether it's a whiskey or a rum or whatever you're drinking. And you're pouring it over rocks, right? Because that hefty bottom is going to be able to hold the rocks. The bottom of it keeps it a little bit colder longer.
Yeah.
But also it's for mixing, right? So traditionally you might see an old-fashioned. This is also known as an old-fashioned glass. Yeah. And that's something that...
What you just said, mixing. Because sometimes some people will actually mix the cocktail. Yes, we're used to using mixing glasses, which we're not going to talk. This is a glass, but it's not something you're going to drink.
That's another episode.
That's an episode.
Yeah, we're not going to drink out of that.
Some people will do the old-fashioned and go right into the glass, give it a quick mix versus just doing a separate mix. So of course, the heftier glass, the nice good bottom, we can stir and get a good cocktail out of it.
Yeah, meant and designed for spirits served over ice, such as the old-fashioned or the Negroni. Now, of course, you can have an old-fashioned up, you can have a Negroni up, but traditionally they're served on the rocks. So that's why we wanted to put this in here like that. And for me, what I also really like to do in a rocks glass is a vermouth cocktail. So I'll take some ice, some good ice, right? I'll take some blue cheese olives and some good Spanish vermouth, and I'll just mix that together, and I'll drink that.
And there's so many cocktails that are served on a rocks glass. I can think of a caipirinha. It's typically also served on a rocks glass. Yeah. Even the other day, you had a pisco sour was served on a rocks glass. Mezcalita has been served on a rocks. I mean,
we're kind of limiting it. Yeah, and something usually most of it has
cocktails that are served over a rock, cube ice or.
Absolutely,
that makes a lot of sense.
Would be served.
I mean, that's a really iconic, classic cocktail glass. And the next one is the highball, which may be kind of the most popular glass from the 1950s, 60s. This is a Collins glass, known as a Collins glass too, a highball and a Collins glass. So this is meant for tall, straight-sided glasses that are going to be really great for higher volume drinks, right? You're looking around like 10 to 12 ounces, and also carbonated drinks. Because again, what we talked about with the flutes for champagne, they're a lot taller, and what that's going to do is it's going to help the carbon dioxide from dissipating too quickly. So it's going to keep your cocktail fizzier longer.
Take fresher, that fresher taste. Yeah.
So and this glass has made a comeback. I've always said I'm particularly me personally. I hate highball cocktails or cocktails served on highball glasses because they remind me of like me at a drinking a soda. But that's me. That's just because I'm weird like that.
But you're not wrong. Keep going.
They're making a comeback. I would say there's a lot of the new movement bars that are serving those carbonated drinks on a highball glass with a
cube ice, right there, the
rectangular, like you would have
one instead of a rock
cube.
It's a long rectangle.
It's a long, and I'm sure many people have seen this lately because we saw a lot of that.
Yeah,
we've seen recently. It's like a.
So remember, like we'll talk about the rocks glass. You get the 2-inch cube of clear ice. Well, this is like a 1-inch rectangle of clear ice. So it's about 5 inches. So you're making smaller quantities. I think it's gotten a bad rap, like Edelweiss says. People were making some pretty crappy drinks in it before. So of course you go out there, you get something that's really carbonated, sweet, or you're just like drinking a soda
with a lot of ice.
A lot of ice, and you're
drinking a fountain soda.
So you're like, you kind of deterred away from it because you knew it was going to be you had a sensation that you're going to get a really shitty drink.
Yeah, that or something that's not quite strong enough to our liking, right?
True. That's true.
I'm usually drinking cocktails out of a rocks glass, to be completely honest.
I'm a serve it up kind of girl.
Absolutely.
You'll see me always ordering. Now I've learned the lesson. I always ask, if it's not on the menu. Typically, there's a lot of bars that will show a little icon, little picture of how the drink is served. But when it doesn't, I typically will ask the bartender, how is it served? And I'm more of a served up.
Or sometimes you can even ask, right? So if they'll tell you,
or you can
listen,
make
is it possible to serve it in a whatever type of other
martini glass or a
whatever,
coupe.
but something that's not going to go with 10 pounds of ice.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is, folks, don't be afraid to switch the glass. If you don't like the way the drink is served on a glass, you can always, and they'll typically, there's not a problem.
You said something really interesting, up. So for all of you that don't know what up means, that means chilled in a cocktail glass without ice. So if you order a martini like I do, which is a Bombay Sapphire Martini 3 olives up, it's chilled with no ice in a cocktail glass. And that is a perfect segue into our next glass, which is the martini glass.
And thank you for clarifying that, because I have been asked, like, what do you mean? Like, what is up? So, yes, thank you.
It's like, by the time I'm done drinking it, I'm down. But
All right, classic old martini glass.
Martini glass.
I mean, everybody knows this glass.
Everybody knows it.
You know,
And it's perfect for a lot
Mr.
more
James
than a martini.
Bond's favorite, shaken, not stirred. This is it. This is where it comes from. But
And shaken not stirred would be served up. Just so you know. So the cool thing about this was invented back in the 18th century. Originally it was called, the 19th century. This was originally called just simply a cocktail glass. And during the time of Prohibition, it was actually incredibly popular because not only was it great for serving chilled cocktails without any ice, not putting any junk in it, as they used to say, but also was easily disposed of, which meant you could throw it out and it could be discarded because it was small, it was thin, it broke easy, you could get away with it. I know, right? But
the rocks glass, different story.
Different story.
That thing
Hard
will bounce.
bottom.
It'll bounce. I don't think it'll break. You'll roll down the street.
Yeah, right. So that's something that for me, I've grown up. My dad is a martini drinker, and I've since really gotten into martinis. But I've also gotten into other beverages. We were talking about Manhattans being served in a coupe. You can serve Manhattan in a martini glass as well. Yeah. You could serve a gimlet in a martini glass. You could serve a Rob Roy. You could serve any of these awesome cocktails that are old school and really nice. Could be served in the traditional cocktail glass, also known as a martini glass.
The good old espresso martini. Fits right in there. He fits here, he fits there.
And the thing that we were talking about before with diffusing of aromas in the coupe glass, like this is something, because it's very wide and because it's that V shape and around, you actually have a lot more surface area to drink out of, which makes it much more convenient, but also because this is typically used for higher alcohol cocktails, stuff with more booze and more heat in it, it actually disperses some of that intense and stringent taste that you can get from that. It'll help to round it out because there's more surface area as it comes up. Yep. It also helps to dissipate the aromas so you're not getting a face full of vodka every time you take a sip.
And you know who else made this glass very popular? Trivia question. In the late 90s, early 2000s.
Sex and the City.
My spirit animal, Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City.
Shout out Sarah Jessica Parker.
Cosmopolitan.
There you go. The Cosmopolitan.
Another very,
that was an
popular
iconic drink.
Little riff on a martini classic. Yeah. I mean, these are really, and the last one that we're going to talk about is super cool, but these first four were really the kind of the foundation of cocktail glassware from the beginning, the turn of the 20th century, 19th century, turn of the 20th century, and into today. You're going to see all of these in bars today.
Yep.
Now we have to talk about the Nick and Nora, because that's a cool one, and that looks like a classic one that you probably found somewhere, right?
This is a vintage one that I found in one of my favorite stores to shop, and I'll tell you a little bit more later where you can find these vintage glassware that are obviously not being made anymore, and a lot of you won't typically find them in a lot of
So the story about the Nick and Nora, though, it actually has a pretty cool story. So it's known as a tiny martini glass, or a small martini glass, or a baby martini glass, but there's actually a story behind it. It actually comes from some movies, right?
From the 1930s.
Yeah, I think the Thin Man film series, I think.
And the characters were Nick and Nora, and
absolutely.
They had this cocktail they drank out of a glass that basically is like an inverted bowl on a stem, and that's where the name comes from.
But they did work, and they drank a lot of cocktails, and that was named after them.
Yeah, they solved mysteries and drank cocktails. How about that?
Great lifestyle. Well, that one. Listen, this is another new riff on it works for this. It works for the. I mean, you could serve a martini. You could serve.
I would say the Nick and Nora and the coupe are interchangeable. You see a lot of cocktails being served either on a coupe or a Nick and Nora.
I just wouldn't serve champagne in the Nick and Nora.
That's correct. That would be the one.
You know, as long as they're all glass, you're good.
I think it's really cool, like Alex, what you said before, and Edelweiss, you know, he was kind of echoing you that it's the experience that you have of these cocktails in these glasses. Now the next one is kind of cool. It's called the tulip glass, and this is not the same. Like we wanted to show you a cognac glass, like a big snifter, but we thought that this was a little more appropriate because this is really what whiskey was consumed out of, really throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. And really cool thing with this is this actually allows you to taste whiskey a lot better because of the big bowl at the bottom, and it actually directs the aromas up into the more pointed glass. It's a little bit shorter of a rim, but the tipping of it makes it very easy to taste, and not only that, but to get the aroma out of it. Now, this is such a great glass, and I love drinking beer out of tulip glass as well, slightly larger tulip glasses.
I have some similar. I do have tulip glasses.
Those are
for beer.
For Belgian beer, very super
really
popular.
Really wide bottom. Yeah, they work.
So this was kind of that first iteration, right? Tulip glass. But then if you look to the right, you have Glencairn glass. Now that's a stemless, essentially a tulip, but a slightly wider bottom and a slightly more, I don't know what you would call this, but it's a flared, tapered out top. Yeah. So this was actually a committee. This was the Glencairn Crystal Company in 2001. They actually were the ones that put this together. It was a consortium of different whiskey manufacturers in Scotland. They wanted to find the proper glassware that they could use to taste whiskey better, and they came up with the Glencairn glass. So this has become super popular in whiskey tasting and literally anything else that you could imagine when it comes to actually tasting any kind of aged spirits. So that's kind of interchangeable with the tulip glass, but for me, I really like the Glencairn. Personally, I like to have the bottom, right? I like to be able to hold on to the bottom and be able to, swirl. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me what you drink out of, just that you're enjoying the experience of drinking out of it.
Correct.
Well, that's kind of everything.
That summarizes basically our lineup of
basic glassware. There's another whole collection back there. We're not going to get into, but those are part of the vintage selection. And they're all kind of riffs on some of these, similar, bigger, smaller, more dainty. But at the end of the day, they all have similar uses, right?
Yeah, I also, you see, John, if you could grab like the one next to the etched one. That one, yeah. Yep. So I guess this would be considered a coupe.
It's like a sherry glass, kind of, actually, almost.
I serve cocktails here all the time that are, like we said, served up. But yeah, all these, vintage glassware, you can find them at, like I said, estate sales, antique shops, thrift stores.
Yeah. Just look. I mean, you can go on eBay too. There's a lot of stuff available. I mean, you're getting some resurgence of actual glass makers that are creating these glasses again. There are a lot of custom glass makers out there, of course, but for us, it's almost cooler for me to go out and find these things and then bring them into the bar and then serve cocktails in something that might have been made 100 years ago.
Exactly.
That's super cool to me.
And then once they break, it's no big issue.
I know they're very, very fragile. One thing I do have to say about these is that they are real crystal and very delicate. Obviously, hand wash, very important. They have to be hand washed, handled with extreme care, because once one bumps into the other one, they tend to get
chipped, they crack, they get gross.
And if they do chip, crack, please throw them away. You don't want to be serving your guests anything in a cracked, chipped, or
I don't think that.
Glass.
Yeah,
that is
sometimes it's hard to
That's what we would call a faux pas. So don't do it. But anyway, listen. This has been very, very cool. I really like what we did here. I hope you guys found this interesting too. Do you guys have anything else you want to share with everybody?
Nope. Drink up.
And as always, please.
Drink better responsibly.
Drink better responsibly. We were going to put cocktails into these glasses, but then we realized we would fall down.
We have to drink them all.
But don't be afraid, and I'm sure that at some point you will see us make cocktails or serve some form of spirit in each and every one of these glasses, and we'll show you how to do it. Anyway, thank you so much, and again, as always, drink better responsibly, and from all of us at the Speakeasy Drink Better podcast, we're so happy that you're here. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about us in the comments.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Your neighbor.
And we'll see
your favorite liquor store. Tell them all.
And cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers,
we'll see you
guys.
next time in the Speakeasy. Take care.
Bye.